So I spent like 6 hours on the PTB testing things. And I'm going to pull like a Scott Jundish type of thing here where I'm just going to talk to you guys. And then I'm going to have PTB footage on the screen and stuff. Anyway, here is my impression of flashlight users on the PTB right now. Mr. Killer, let me get the blind save. Mr. Killer, please. I need the flashy save, please. I haven't been able to do it in like a week and a half, and I'm going through withdrawals. Please give me flashy save. Why are you being toxic? Other than that, I'm losing my fucking mind. Okay, so I did some testing on the PTBs and the public test beta. And I went through and I tried to test as much stuff as I can. You guys just got to understand that I don't have friends, nor do I have a lot of my community that's on PC to help me. I should say a lot of community members that I trust to be on PC to help me test things. You know, I'm not that close with a lot of them. So I had to do a lot of my testing by actually like going into public matches and things. And, I have some thoughts, obviously. I have some changes I'd like to see happen before we get to live. And I have some things that I think are great. We'll start with the anti-face camping thing. I tested this out in a couple of matches with Trapper, and it works fairly well. I ended up doing like kind of a questionnaire with some of the survivors who were willing to stay and talk about it. A couple of them say that it should speed up the closer you are to death. I don't know how viable that is because I couldn't see it from my end. And I tried to play survivor matches, but literally no killer wanted to face camp to test it. They would all like hook and then just walk into the Great Yonder. So I don't know how it looks from the survivor end. I'm hoping that I'll get a chance to kind of test it out when it hits live servers, because I don't plan on going back into the PTB after I just spent 6 hours testing everything. But I'm hoping that by the time it hits live servers, I'll actually get a chance to see what it looks like. The second stage unhook didn't look too bad. And then a couple of times, you know, I had people surrounding the hook with me, waiting for the face camp thing to happen. And I think that one of the survivors told me that at 2 survivors, the timer pauses, which I think it should be 3. So I don't know. That's what they told me. I can't confirm that. That's just how I saw it. But from the killer's perspective, what I really like is that there's no warning they're about to do it. Because if they're in first hook, they can still do the take your chance, and, right? But there's no warning otherwise. And especially if they're in second state, you never know when it's going to happen. So I like that idea. I like that the killer can't plan around the timer. I was concerned that the timer would be visible to the killer so that they could like abuse it. One thing that I didn't test that I kind of forgot to, because I spent like 4 matches testing the face camp thing. I don't know if walking away makes the timer decay, or if the timer just pauses once the killer leaves the radius. So if you know, let me know in the comments for sure. Moving on, we have the McMillan reworks. It feels really weird, but one big issue is not necessarily the new map designs of the variety. It's that Shack has invisible walls on basically every McMillan map. I've ran into this in a PTB a while back. I forget which PTB it was that I played. But something happened with McMillan, and there was just, you couldn't walk through Shack, like the side with the pallet. It acted like the pallet was thrown. Now, on the new McMillan maps, there are invisible walls that you just like straight up run into. One of them, the invisible wall stretched from the corner of Shack all the way to some nearby boxes. So it was like this long ass. Another one, it was just a short, it looked like it was like an invisible like pillar around the hook on the corner of Shack, which was kind of weird. So yeah, there are a couple of invisible walls. Hopefully they really need to be, that needs to be looked at, because it can get survivors killed, it can get killers out, you know, lose killers hooks. Yeah, harmful things. The Borgo update. I played a couple of games on the Borgo, and I honestly don't mind it. I thought I was going to be frustrated with it because I didn't really like the idea of them making walls taller, but you really don't notice that much. It's not incredibly noticeable, but the size difference of the map is. On the old Borgo, you couldn't see. I play on low settings because I have a graphics card from the 1980s. But you can't see on the current live version of Borgo, you can't see very far. But on the new one, you can see the exit gates very clearly, so you know where they're at. Which is a good and bad thing. Like for survivors, it's obviously like, oh, the exit gate's over there. I can see it towering above the skies, and they can run to it. But it's a good thing because now the map is a little bit more navigational. You kind of have a clearer idea of where you want to go because the map is so small. One problem I did notice is that the map does have a tendency to spawn the vast majority of gens on one side, and then the other side of the square will only have 1 or 2 gens, and that's not that great. I think the gen distribution needs to be fixed a little bit. And also, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but out of the 10 games I played on Shattered Shit, I swear to you, the amount of hooks on that map has been reduced. But I also think that the amount of pallets on that map has been reduced, which gives me a bit of a chub. Moving on to some of the more minor changes that happened. I didn't test either of the background player or furtive chase because, I mean, honestly, who gives a fuck? But I did test the trapper, the slinger, and the reload speeds on Huntress and Trickster. Here are my thoughts. For the reload speed for slinger, it's great, but I don't think they needed to nerf the add-on in compensation. I think nerfing the keys was a bad idea, and that needs to be reverted because, like, you only shaved 0.15 seconds off of the thing, right? And they in order to like compensate that, they basically cut the keys in half, and that didn't need to happen. The keys should have stayed at 0.3 reduction with the 0.15 base kit reduction to actively make us not have to keep using the fucking keys. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the keys should have been a bonus as opposed to nerfing them for no reason. So that needs to be reverted. Huntress and Trickster, the reload speed is comparable to Iron Maiden base kit. With Iron Maiden, it's a fucking monster. You get like, I think you reload in something like 1.75-ish seconds. Like they just go, and then they take off with it. And it's so fucking funny to me, dude. It's so funny to watch. I love it. Trapper. Surprise, surprise. I was correct. The changes basically did nothing. You can do some cheeky, speedy Trapper stuff. He does feel faster. I'll tell you that. When you set the trap, you get that little haste boost, and then you combine that with like coffee grounds, you go boom, like you fucking fly. So you can combine coffee grounds with the pliers that makes your setting speed really fast, and it can cause you to get like a really good speed boost. Which could kind of sort of turn him into an anti-looper. The only problem is he still has to get his fucking traps. Sorry. It's great because he's technically a better anti-looper now. But if you don't have traps on you, who the fuck cares? And if you still have to trudge at 115 to the other end of fucking Narnia, travel to Mordor and shit to throw your goddamn sanity into the volcano, like the One Ring or whatever, to get your fucking traps, then it doesn't matter. And the increased trap spawn seems great, but you're not necessarily going to be able to utilize it all the time. On smaller maps, it's amazing because you're basically tripping over the traps. On places like Midwich, the new Shattered Shit, the Suffocation Pit, all these smaller maps, you're basically tripping over your traps. But when you get on places like the Red Forest and fucking RPD and all these gigantic, huge maps, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. You still are going to have traps that you'll never pick up because they're sitting in dead zones off in the corner. What should have happened along with this change, I believe, if you're going to absolutely refuse to give us purple bag base kit, I believe personally what they should have done was make the spawn logic of the traps show up near generators, right? Because then you always have a reason to go there and collect your trap. You start with 2, you have 7 on the ground, that's 9. Right? You have 7 on the ground, 1 by each generator. You could that would be a comparable compromise, right? That would be a compromise between us, the player base, and you, right? Just change the spawn logic, start us with 2 traps, have 7 spawn on the map, regardless if you bring the green bag or not, right? So that the green bag's a little bit more powerful. And then you can keep the purple bag with starting us with all the traps, right? And then that way we have a reason to go to the places to get our traps instead of them spawning off in a random corner somewhere. That being said, moving on to the Skull Merchant. Now, I want to tell you guys real quick, there are some posts going around Reddit right now about the Skull Merchant that are severely overreacting to these changes. And I don't necessarily blame them, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's not slightly unreasonable. So the Skull Merchant, I don't think is weaker than her live state, but I don't necessarily think it's stronger either. I think she's kind of slid to the side on the power scale because the way you play her is completely changed, right? So before on the live server, you had the 3 gen power that doesn't exist anymore. But you also could make her a chase power with her add-ons. Well, her chase add-ons have been completely changed, and a lot of people are upset about that. And I understand why, because in the dev patch note, in the dev blog, they said we're trying to make Skull Merchant more chase oriented, and she's not. She's not. I will agree with you there. She is not more chase oriented. Instead, Skull Merchant has become a very unique. She's become a unique and odd sort of killer. What she's become now is a zoning stealth killer, which sounds really weird, but here's the new way to play her. Now you have these 6 drones, and the way the drones work is what you basically want to do is you want to find a part of the map, like a good portion, maybe one with like 4 gens next to it or something like that. You want to go to the strongest loops in that part, throw 4 of your drones up, and keep 2 in your back pocket. Because every time you throw a drone up, you become immediately undetectable. You do this, and you basically lock down a section of the map where you are more powerful, where loops are riskier to run, where it's more dangerous to work on generators because you're there. So she's no longer 3-genning per se. Instead, what she's doing is she's shutting down or making the loops next to a 3-gen more dangerous, right? And then you keep the 2 in your back pocket for the free, like 5 seconds of undetectable or something. I had got, out of 25 games on Skull Merchant on the PTB, I must have got probably about 15 different gen grabs, which doesn't seem like a lot to people, but that is quite a bit. Think about how many times you're able to grab people off gens, even as stealth killers. It doesn't happen often, and I got a lot of them. I tried this one combination. You use monitor and abuse, and then there's an iridescent add-on that whenever a drone becomes deactivated, her terror radius gets given to that drone and you become undetectable. And when you combine these two, that means the monitor and abuse helps you get closer to people than you would before. And then the iridescent add-on, whenever it procs, you just get this undetectable and then you just walk over. So you can do some pretty interesting stealth builds with her. That's not to say I think it's all good. I think some of the add-ons are a bit lackluster, like her Purple Blade add-on, which is like this little spinny saw looking thing. I don't remember what it used to do, but now it makes the drones spin faster, which is supposed to help you get more lock-on procs. It doesn't do shit. It's very, very weak. They need to do something else with it. I don't really know what they need to do with it, but they need to do something else with it. Another complaint that I saw that I actually kind of agree with is that a lot of the add-ons now work with claw traps, but you don't get claw traps that often. The threat of the new Skull Merchant isn't necessarily from the claw traps, it's from the fact that the claw traps might happen, right? It's kind of like Pig, where her head traps aren't necessarily a lethal threat. It's the fact that if you fuck around too much, you will die, right? So in the Skull Merchant's case, if you fuck around too much, you will get claw trapped. But a lot of people are cautious enough to where they try to avoid, which is where her zoning thing comes in. Because you can put this thing up and people are so scared of getting claw trapped, a lot of people will avoid these stronger loops and go to weaker loops where you have an easier time, basically. I think that putting a drone in the center of Shack is a necessity. It's a must. You have to have it there. It's going to help you. It's going to shut down Shack most often because, again, the threat of getting the claw trap is what scares a lot of people, not necessarily the claw trap happening itself. And the claw traps are fairly powerful now. It's just, I don't think they happen often enough to justify the vast majority of the add-ons being focused upon them. So that's basically everything I have as far as the PTB goes. If you want to try it out for yourself, then, if you're on PC, great. If you're on console, I'm sorry. I hope that, you get some more feedback from various people. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I love you all so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Also, a quick thank you to my channel member, Nuclear Bomb, for, supporting me and everything. If you guys want to know how you can get thank yous at the end of every video, as well as additional perks like behind the scenes, teasers for upcoming videos, discount codes, and more, then go ahead and click that join button right below the video. And, yeah. Okay. Now I'll actually see you tomorrow.